Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Jacqui Van Ham, your girl in the know for all things motorcycle. Welcome to today's show, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. We made it to the end of another exciting week out here in motorcycle land. The beginning of February. It is sunny out here in Kentucky for like the second day in a row. It's just a string of miracles here in February. But I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's another big storm coming through. So hopefully no matter where you are out there in the world, you are staying warm and cozy and safe and inside. It is going to get down into the teens and 20s here in Kentucky as well, which is a total bummer. But welcome everybody to our show. This is your fun fact Friday. On Friday afternoons, I like to open up the show and do a little bit of a dive into some of the history of motorcycling, as well as some garage and mechanical basics and things like that. So for today's show, and I apologize, you're going to hear my little co-host barking. The warm weather brought out the construction team next door on the house next door. So they're going to be going a little crazy talking to the construction guys next door. This is Mr. Dewey. If you watch the show, you know I've got a handful of little wiener dogs in here. And this one likes to talk a lot. But, so for today's show, I wanted to pay a bit of an homage. We had some very, very sad news this past week to the world of motorcycling globally. I can't even say motorcycling here in the United States because it's literally everywhere. The founder, the curator, the man behind the miracle that is the museum Wheels Through Time in Maggie Valley, North Carolina, Mr. Dale Wachsler, passed away very, very sadly this past week after an extensive battle with cancer that lasted for several years. Now, to be honest, I didn't even know about that because he still is hosting events and having motorcycle stuff going on at his shop and filming and showing off bikes. And he's been out here just kicking ass in motorcycling for years and years and years. Anybody that is into, American bikes or antique bikes knew this gentleman, knows this gentleman. So very, very sadly, he passed away. So you're going to see a lot of tributes and things going on the internet this next week, which is totally well-deserved. So I wanted to touch on two things. One, I wanted to talk a little bit about him and his passing and his kick-ass museum in Maggie Valley, North Carolina, which if you've not gone to, you should be putting that on your bucket list because it is an incredible, incredible special place. The tagline for that museum is the museum that runs, because literally every single thing in that museum runs. Like he would sometimes host people over, and if you just pointed at a bike and asked to see it run, he would totally go and kick it over and run this machine for you. So I think that is incredibly special. But here's the other kicker, which is why this is also Fun Fact Friday, is I wanted to feature arguably one of the jewels in the crown of the Wheels Through Time Museum, which is arguably the rarest motorcycle in the world. It is one of one, and that is the motorcycle, the Traub. So that is what today's show is all about. Make sure you hit that share button, share this video with all of your friends that love hearing and learning about kick-ass motorcycles. This one is super fascinating, and I even have included a video of this machine, this ultra rare bike running. So how about that? I've got even more kick-ass stuff going on today's show. So welcome everybody. Feel free to go ahead, say hey to me in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm always curious. To all of our top fans, welcome back top fans. And to all of our new viewers, hola, konnichiwa, guten tag, bonjour, and bonjour no. So let's get started with today's program. So again, this show touches on a couple of things. One is this incredible museum founded by Dale Wachsler, who passed away on the 3rd of February, the Wheels Through Time Museum. I'm wearing the shirt. I've been multiple times. I was friends in real life with Dale. So this show is dedicated to him and all of my antique motorcycle nerds out there. So today's show is talking about this incredibly rare, super cool, fascinating, crazy story wrapped in mystery called the Traub. This is coming from, I've got a couple of different articles where I'm pulling from. This first one is from the website Rumble On. This is thought to be the rarest model in all of motorcycle history. It's called the Traub motorcycle and is the only one in existence. Sure, there are plenty of classic bikes and one-offs out there, but what makes the Traub the rarest motorcycle is its brilliant engineering, and it's the sole one of its kind. Its construction was well ahead of its time, and it still runs today. The discovery. When the Traub motorcycle was first discovered in 1967, the former owners of the home were tracked down. The previous owner revealed that the son had stolen the motorcycle in 1916, presumably from the Traub's original owner and creator. As the story goes, the father was so enraged at his son's act of thievery that he forced him to enlist in the army. Given that this was in the throes of the very First World War, because this is in 1916, the son was then sent to fight and tragically did not return. Now that is all totally just wrapped in mystery, wrapped in hearsay, but it does make for a super fascinating story. And this Traub was discovered in 1967 by a plumber who knocked through a wall in order to repair some plumbing in this building, this apartment in Chicago. This was located in the north side of Chicago. And again, this plumber just discovered, knocked through a wall and found a motorcycle hidden behind it. So, I mean, how on earth did this get there? Again, it's total speculation that this young man stole this bike. His dad was so upset, he sent him off to World War I. So the legend goes that the son, because he presumed that he was going to come back from World War I, hid this motorcycle in the wall of the family's home. And there it sat from 1916 all the way through till 1967 when this plumber knocked this wall down in Chicago. The hiding place must have been secret, and when the son was killed in action in World War I, the secret died with him. Who was Traub? The Traub motorcycle was in good condition when it was discovered in 1967. In fact, it still runs to this day, and that's true. I've got video of it. After 50 years in the dark, the white tires only needed to be aired up and wiped with Armor All, and the engine seemed virtually new, and there wasn't a spot of rust on the orange and butterscotch brown paint. Someone well ahead of their time used their skill to create this masterpiece, but who? The identity of the Traub's creator has been frustrating historians for years. While the name of the man who could have been the bike's creator has likely been found, it is impossible to say whether it is definitively the answer. It's time to get into the nitty-gritty of the research, and it all starts with a man by the name of Traub. Gottlieb Richard Traub was born in America, but was of German descent. Correspondence from a Richard Traub to the editor of Motorcycle Illustrated was printed in July of 1907. The letter's author lists his address at North Paulina Street in Chicago and talks about his homemade 4-horsepower motorcycle. And this is a screen grab of this actual correspondence of this printed page from Motorcycle Illustrated. This was printed in 1907. He writes, "Dear Sir, find the enclosed picture and specifications of a motorcycle made by myself throughout, engine and all. I worked on this cycle about 1 year, putting in the time only between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. I also worked on Sundays." It gives the specifications, and interestingly, the specifications he lists in the correspondence are completely similar, dead ringers for the Traub. For the motorcycle by the same name that was discovered within the wall. Historical research could further connect Gottlieb Richard Traub with the makings of motorcycles. According to the 1910 census, the 27-year-old Gottlieb Richard Traub lived at 1520 North Paulina, as we already know from that letter that he wrote, and was a tool maker at a factory. Later, on his World War I draft designation card in 1917-1918, he stated that he was a self-employed experimental machinist. Experimental machinist, you say? At a motorcycle shop, perhaps? This photo shows the Richard Traub motorcycle shop. The date and location of this picture are unknown, but census records state that our mysterious Gottlieb Richard Traub worked out of an attached garage on his property. One could venture to guess that this is his shop, and it might be the one located at the back of his residence on North Paulina Street. North Paulina Street is also not far from where the bike was found walled up in 1967, almost 50 years later. If these two motorcycles are both creations of the same mind, it shows. These bikes could be the predecessors of the Traub motorcycle that was located in that wall in 1967. It's not a stretch to think that Gottlieb Richard Traub could have tweaked his creation for improvement between that 1907 article, that letter that he wrote to Motorcycle Illustrated, and 1916, and arrived at this incredible machine. Traub's technology was decades ahead of other motorcycles produced at the time. including the fact that this was a really, really good sized engine, as you can see in this machine. This article lists it at 80 cubic inches, but the folks from Wheels Through Time dial it down to 67 cubic inches. This is also a twin cam engine, way ahead of its time, and it had a 3-speed transmission, also for 1916, way, way, way ahead of its time. The folks ended up with this at the Wheels Through Time Museum because after 1967, when this motorcycle was found in the wall of this building in Chicago, a local motorcycle dealer wheeled and dealed with the family that owned this property and purchased this motorcycle. And I shouldn't say purchased because actually they traded it. They traded this beautiful, incredible 1916 Traub for a brand new Yamaha or Suzuki. The story's different, but they traded them for basically a brand new dirt bike. What a steal! What a deal, right? This incredible bike traded for just a brand new dirt bike in the late 1960s, 1970s. Around that same time, a gentleman by the name of Bud Eakins, whose name you should know, super, super well-known stunt rider, stunt performer, motorcyclist, who also performed the stunts for Steve McQueen, including many, many, many others, was in Chicago filming The Blues Brothers. That's right, this even has a Blues Brothers movie tie-in. Bud Eakins was in town. He heard legends of this Traub machine. He tracked it down to the dealership and purchased that motorcycle and one or two other bikes from that dealership, and they were shipped out to California. They lived in California for many, many years. And then finally, Mr. Dale Wachsler, the owner and curator of the Wheels Through Time Museum, did his own wheeling and dealing and was able to purchase this incredible bike. His amazing team at Wheels Through Time went through the entire machine, top to bottom, cleaned it up, and got it running. But it really didn't take very much. But like I said, they like to have their machines be in spick and span, top order. So there is really good photos of him taking the machine apart, performing inspections, and looking through everything, as well as really archiving everything about this beautiful bike. Again, every single piece of this machine was built by hand. Every single thing. The cylinders were cast. We're assuming this Richard Traub or one of his contemporaries. These are all hand-cast, hand-formed cylinders, hand-cast, hand-formed pistons with no gap iron rings included. So just a really, really incredible and special machine, including that 3-speed gearbox, which is ultra rare and very, very ahead of its time, considering this machine was built in 1916. Another interesting twist, the plot thickens on this incredible story, is because this Richard Traub's brother also worked for a motorcycle company called Thor. So Thor is a motorcycle company, one of many, 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 many motorcycle companies at this time, located especially in the Midwest. At that time in the Midwest, in Wisconsin and in Wisconsin and Illinois area, there were dozens and dozens of small, itty-bitty, bespoke motorcycle companies. Now, why was that? That's because at that time, or just previous to that time, I should say, this was the absolute hub, pun intended, of bicycles. And if you know your history of motorcycles, you know that they are absolutely hand in glove, right neck and neck with bicycles. Motorcycles would never ever have happened without bicycles being so absolutely just linked up with the history of motorcycles. So the plot totally thickens. We dial in even harder and closer onto the fact that this bike was quite probably made by this gentleman named Gottlieb, but known as Richard Traub, and was in this exact same area where this motorcycle was located. So this idea of it being stolen and then hidden away totally makes sense, because until the time that Richard Traub passed away, he did come back from World War I safely. He did not pass away until the early 1950s. He never made mention of it. The bike was never discussed again. There was no police report talking about it being stolen. There was no hunt for this motorcycle. There was no, there was no press about this motorcycle. There was absolutely no history whatsoever between the time this thing was made in 1916, he got shipped over to World War I shortly after, and then 1967 it reappears. There was no noise from him when he passed away in the early 50s. So the fact, this idea of it being stolen and hidden away kind of makes perfect sense, because he probably assumed it was just gone, that it was just completely gone, daddy, gone, shipped away, dismantled, burnt, whatever. I mean, all these things are just pure speculation, but it kind of makes sense as far as the story goes. So super, super fascinating history, an incredible piece of technology, an incredible piece of machinery and of engineering. This all makes super, super perfect sense, and it's just an incredibly juicy and fascinating story, which is why this motorcycle is considered the rarest motorcycle in the world and is an absolute jewel in the crown of the Wheels Through Time Museum, owned by Mr. Dale Wachsler, who just passed away this past week. So now let's see what I've been promising you. Let's see some video of this incredible machine up and running. This footage is lifted directly from the Wheels Through Time YouTube page. They've got a great page. They've got over 50,000 subscribers. The production quality is wonderful. They go through, they film all sorts of bikes and all sorts of kick-ass stuff that they get into down at that museum, which is located in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. You should go put that on your bucket list to go check out for yourself. But I want to give them credit because I absolutely lifted this video from them. So go check out the rest of their awesome videos going on over at YouTube. But here we go. Let's see this beautiful video in action.
All right. Fired right up. It's got a manual oiler, so we're going to turn the oil on. Sight glass down at the bottom.
All right, so I didn't talk during it so that way you could hear this incredible engine. And as you noticed, once he got the bike warmed up a little bit and running a little bit smoother, it totally smoothed out. It idled beautifully. An incredibly great running machine. Again, for this ultra rare 1960 machine that lives at the Wheels Through Time Museum, the museum that runs, this bike absolutely does run down there. And on very, very special occasions, they do kick it over for the public so you can see it for yourself live and in person. But they do a nice close-up of that engine. Again, it's a double cam, which is super ahead of its time. It had a little self-oiler. It had, just had all sorts of just incredible bells and whistles. So just really, really fascinating piece of technology. So that is today's story. It's about arguably the world's rarest motorcycle, the Traub, this incredible shroud of mystery that it is wrapped in. People, it is still just a lot of speculation and question marks. The only real information we have is digging through things like the census and digging through, property papers to find these names, track these things down. There are no photos of this at the time this was made. Just really, really incredibly interesting story. And I just wanted to bring that to you today here on Fun Fact Friday. I try to dig and get to the bottom of some awesome stories for you here, especially on these Friday programs. This one was a bit of a doubleheader and a love letter to my buddy Dale Wachsler, who passed away this past week. Godspeed, Mr. Dale. You will be missed, my friend. So that is what today's show is about. That is a shot of the Wheels Through Time Museum. You should go check this out for yourself. It is open a handful of months throughout the year. The handful of months that they are open, they get over, I think, like 100,000 guests at the museum. They average over 100,000 people coming through that museum. So this is a real, real special place. Again, this show is also dedicated to Dale Wachsler, an incredible human being out here in motorcycling. He was inducted to the AMA Hall of Fame and was just a huge, huge part of the motorcycling family here and abroad, especially for antique motorcycles. So today's show is dedicated to Dale Wachsler. You will be missed, my friend. Thank you so much for all of your incredible motorcycles that you show off at Wheels Through Time, including this absolute stunner, this absolute jewel in the crown, as I've been saying all day, the Traub. What do you guys think about that? A super interesting story wrapped in mystery. There should be a movie about this thing. This is so fascinating and so interesting and has so many different levels and speculation and ideas. And again, you know, it gets dug out. People have to find the history of it. It ends up purchased by Bud Eakins, who is another legend in motorcycling while they're filming The Blues Brothers. Can it get any more Chicago than that? It cannot. Just a really, really fascinating story. I hope you guys loved today's show. Do feel free to go ahead, hit that share button now or as soon as I wrap up this show. Share this video with your friends and your pages that love learning and hearing about kick-ass motorcycles. Here on Choppertown, we only get to keep doing what we do out here because of you guys sharing the love and sharing these videos. I never make any bones about it. I don't pull the wool over your eyes. The more eyeballs we get, the more I get to keep doing what I do out here for each and every one of you. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Have an awesome weekend no matter where you are out there in the world. Stay safe. Stay warm. There's a big nasty storm coming through here, especially in the middle part of the United States. And I will see you next Wednesday. Huge thanks to Vroom. Retract that. Vroom your room at h-pproducts.com. TwoStrokeTees.com. I've still got some t-shirts available. Free shipping in the lower US. And I, of course, could not do any of these shows without my Choppertown Nation. Thank you so much, my Choppertown family, clicking, liking, and sharing all of our videos.